For quick background, I am the head of government affairs for the American Retirement Association, or ARA. ARA is an umbrella organization to 5 education associations, one of which is NAPA, the National Association of Plan Advisors, that hopefully some of you are involved with or have received one of our credentials, including the Certified Plan Fiduciary Advisor credential. In addition to NAPA, we also have ASPA, PSCA, NTSA, and ASCA with over 35,000 members across the country. In addition to serving as the head of government affairs, I also am the executive director of Plan Sponsor Council of America, or PSCA, which is one of the 5 organizations. I am a recovering plan sponsor. I'm also a recovering Hill staffer working on Capitol Hill for about 4 years for a U.S. senator. So let's talk a little bit about the election that happened last week. Well, first off, votes are still being counted. What we can say is that President Trump will be returning to the White House as one of only 2 presidents who have had non-successive terms. So he will be taking the oath of office on January 20th, 2025. Just this week and even yesterday, he's been very active in starting to name who will potentially be the members of his cabinet, which I'll get to in a little bit when talking a little bit about the makeup of the House of Representatives. With respect to the U.S. Senate, 99 of the 100 senators have been determined for next year. According to most news sources. Some news sources have identified all 100. The one race that is still outstanding is current incumbent Senator Casey of Pennsylvania, and the competitor Senator, or soon to be probably Senator McCormick. The race is down to about 30,000 votes. The AP and other sources have called it for McCormick. Some have not quite called the race, since it is subject to a mandatory recount due to the fact that it's been 0.5% or lower differential in the votes. But with that said, they are expecting that the challenger, McCormick, will be the new junior senator from Pennsylvania. So with that said, it will be Republicans in control with 53 seats and 47 to the Democrats, which is a flip of the Senate from Democratic control to Republican controlled. With respect to the House of Representatives, just a few hours ago, some sources out there have officially called it that the House will stay Republican. I don't believe the AP or other sources have called it quite yet. But based on the remaining races that have yet to finalize their vote count, it is expected that Republicans will retain the majority. It is still TBD on how slim of a majority that will be. As of right now, at least, some of the sources have said that they have hit that 218 magic marker. They will hopefully, or most likely, probably be 1, 2, or 3 above that margin there. But with that said, of the 435, at least 218 will potentially be Republican. So let's talk a little bit about kind of like what are exactly next steps with respect to the Republican majority in the House, the Senate, as well as with the presidency. Started off in the House, it's going to be really interesting. They're going to have some internal discussions this week with respect to leadership, committee assignments, and whatnot. The official vote on the Speaker of the House is not until January 5th. So it is now up to Speaker Johnson, the current speaker, to really determine if he is able to hold on to control. There hasn't been any clear challenger to it, but as we all know, there was a lot of, I'll just use the word, drama around the speakership over the past Congress. So it'll be interesting to see if on January 5th he is able to, corral at least 218 of his colleagues, all Republican colleagues, to maintain that speakership. And so I think we're going to hear a lot about that in the coming weeks. With respect to committee assignments, we don't see any major shifts in committee assignments. So most likely, Chairman Smith of Missouri will maintain Ways and Means, as well as Chairwoman Fox maintaining the Education and Workforce, which are the 2 primary committees of jurisdiction within the retirement landscape. On the Senate side, there is going to be a shift here. It is Democratic controlled right now. It will shift to Republican controlled. With respect to the leadership, we on the Democratic side, as of right now, we do expect that Senator Schumer will still be the leader of the Democratic caucus. But on the Senate Republican side, that still is a question mark. The current Republican leader, McConnell, has said he is not running for reelection to lead the Republican caucus. So there are some very senior Republican leaders who are in the mix to take over with respect to the Republican caucus. So that will be one kind of almost seismic shift since McConnell has been a longstanding leader of the Republican caucus. With respect to the Finance Committee, which is the most important committee, especially when it comes to retirement policy, we're going to see a number of new faces. So first off, right now the the split is 14 Democrats and 13 Republicans that are on that committee. That will probably flip-flop to 14 Republicans, 13 Democrats, or it could be 15 Republicans and 12 Democrats. We may even see that type of shift as well. On the Republican side, we actually won't see too many players leave or come or go. Definitely, potentially one of the more senior members, especially if that senior member is the new leader of the Republican caucus, they will drop all of their committee assignments. Right now, Senators Thune and Senators Cornyn are at the top there, and we could see them become the leader, drop their participation in the Finance Committee, and then we'll see one or two new Republican members. On the Democratic side, we are going to see probably about 5 new members on the Finance Committee. You already have Senators Sherrod Brown and Casey, who are losing their reelection battle that will be leaving. Senators Stabenow, Carper, and Cardin all retired at the end of this Congress. And then Senator Menendez is no longer a senator as well. So you have a pretty big shift there of a number of new faces that are going to be coming on to the Finance Committee, which from at least my point of view involves a lot of education that we'll have to do with respect to those offices. However, when it comes to those who are leading the Finance Committee, we're going to see Senator Crapo, who's the current ranking member, become chair, Senator Wyden, the current chair, become ranking. The other committee of jurisdiction, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, will probably potentially see some shifts there. So Senator Sanders, who did win re-election, is the current chair, will probably become the ranking member. However, on the Republican lead, Senator Cassidy is the current ranking member. He may become chair, though there is one senator that has seniority over him that could decide to become the chair of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, and that is Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. So we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. So what does that all mean? So next year, 2025, is going to be all about tax reform. There are a number of the provisions from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 that expire at the end of 2025. And now we have a Republican trifecta. So we have Republicans with the taking control of the Senate. They have the House, and they now have the White House. What that means is that we will probably see a tax reform bill that is passed via the process called reconciliation. Reconciliation basically means that on the Senate side, all you need is a simple majority. It cannot be filibustered. You do not need that 60 vote threshold, which is standard for most pieces of legislation in the Senate. You only need that simple majority. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 was passed via reconciliation, as an example. Other major pieces of reform, both on that with Democrats in control and Republicans in control, have been passed via reconciliation. Reconciliation has its limits. It can only really be tax provisions or spending provisions. It can't be a pure policy position on immigration, for example. It can't be like social reforms unless there is some sort of direct tie-in to tax or spending. So it is a very delicate process. There's rumors out there that it could happen really fast and come together, or it's going to take a number of months to finally kind of figure out what is that package and how are we going to get across the finish line. From a process standpoint, especially in the House of Representatives, you do have to think about the House as almost as a business. You have 435 employees. With any business, as you all are well aware, there are people that are sick someday and aren't able to make it to work. There are certain people that got promoted and are no longer doing that, their specific job function, which can, throw some sand in the gears of how that business operates. So, kind of applying that to the House with 435 members, sometimes people are not there that day. They can't vote. Sometimes there's a death and that seat has not been filled. This week, we've already seen that President-elect Trump has nominated or will nominate two members of the current Congress and future Congress to executive positions. So Stefanik will become potentially the ambassador to the UN, and Congressman Walz will become national security advisor. So you have two seats right there that whenever their Senate confirmation goes through, they'll have to resign their seat. That seat will be vacant until it's filled based on the process that is under law in those respective states. So as you can see, with a very slim majority, so let's say they have just 218 or 219, they're going to need the full team there to get anything across the finish line. So that one delicate process of putting together a reconciliation bill that truly is reconciliation, that the parliamentarian's going to say, yep, that's correct, you can move forward with it, is then going to have to match up with making sure that you have the majority there to pass it from the House. So that's what we're going to probably be expecting over the coming months into 2025. On the Senate side, I think we're going to have less of that kind of process with respect to just attendance, but we are going to see a little bit more process with senators having their specific interests, review process in place, which might potentially draw this out. Also in the Senate, we're already starting to hear some Republicans talk about how they want to make sure that they pay for certain tax reforms as well. So very broadly, typically when it comes to tax cuts or tax changes, you can see that more so Republicans say tax cuts pay for themselves. And then on the Democratic side, you hear more so, and I'm again talking generally here, that you need to pay for tax cuts. Now we're kind of starting to hear more talk from the Republican side that they can't just extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So a blanket extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I think, is anywhere between 5 to 7 trillion additional deficit added to the U.S. Debt. So they're already kind of saying, all right, well, we're going to need to pick and choose what we need to pass, and we may need to find some pay-fors. That's where at the American Retirement Association, we are going to be going directly on the offense, talking about how great 401k plans are, and to don't touch 401k plans. Don't trump 401k plans. Where they could potentially look at is always the limits. What's the 402g limit? Should we Rothify some of those limits to bring in additional revenue? Other proposals that have been thrown out there are looking at overall limits across all tax favored accounts, which hits more wealthier individuals. Mega IRAs, mega Roth IRAs, and how do we kind of tinker with those a little bit to find some revenue here as well. Dating back to 2016, Republicans at one time put forward some proposals that would, vastly, kind of hinder non-qualified plans, which would raise revenue. So pretty much when it comes to reconciliation, everything's on the table. So we're going to have to be ready to go to play defense to ensure that we are protecting, first and foremost, the 401k, the private retirement system in America, but then also looking at some of the other proposals that they're putting forward that could potentially also harm our retirement system in America. So we will be geared up and ready to go for next year. Some other interesting things that we may see are on HSAs. So here's a great opportunity to potentially expand health savings accounts. As I mentioned, non-qualified plans, we're going to have to gut check those as well to see if there's anything interesting from a legislative perspective on HSAs. So that's what we're going to expect from the legislation side. While all of that is happening, at least at the American Retirement Association, we're already working on Secure 3.0, putting forward new and great ideas on a bipartisan basis so that maybe in 26, 27, we're able to see another great package get across the finish line to really enhance the 401k system. So switching to the regulatory side, that's where we're going to see a lot of interesting changes as well. So first up, where you probably are all very interested in as advisors, is the Department of Labor. So under a Trump administration, I think first and foremost, we can probably say that the fiduciary rule that was initiated by the Biden administration, where a couple courts kind of put a stop to it this year, that will not be implemented. So I'm sure initially the Department of Labor will basically roll that rule back, and there's a various procedures that they can utilize to do that. So that definitely will not be implemented. Next up, we potentially could see another ping pong on the ESG rule. So the most recent ESG rule under the Biden administration kind of let fiduciaries fiducie. So let fiduciaries decide whether or not they want to implement an ESG rule based on their own plan and their own participants. We could see something come back that the first Trump administration proposed that sort of threw cold water on ESG funds. So that's another area that we could potentially see some changes there. Crypto. So crypto is pretty popular out there. There was a lot of money from the crypto world in politics this year. So we potentially could also see something in the crypto space, not only at the Department of Labor, but on Capitol Hill. I totally expect there probably to be some sort of crypto bill proposed through the Banking and Financial Services Committee, which then could lead to some additional regulatory activities at the SEC. So that's kind of where we're seeing on the regulatory front with Department of Labor, the SEC, and then finally with the IRS. With the IRS, really just Secure 2.0. Secure 2.0, there are a lot of new regulations that we're expecting. Hopefully, most of those can continue to be implemented. However, with a new administration, they always at sometimes can say, hey, we're going to put a hold on the release of any new guidance until the right people are in place to do kind of that final review. So the only thing I can really say in Secure 2.0 is that we just may need to wait a little bit longer on some of our expected guidance. So that's in a nutshell what's going on with respect to the election and how the election will impact retirement plans in 2025 in the future.